Hi, this is Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my studio. Now today, look at the background. It's a gray background. And today I'm going to talk about how we mix grays, or neutral colors. But it's a very important part of art because a gray background, or with a gray subject matter, that makes out the bright colors really pop out of a painting. So learning how to mix grays is a very important job for an artist. So today we're going to go through the mixes I go through. I'll show you a quick small painting how I apply them, and hopefully you will learn how to mix them yourself. So we'll go over to my painting board. I'll show you my reference and get you examples and a demonstration of how to mix gray. Hey, this is a small painting I did a while back, but it shows you the grays in the building. I have another example here of another painting I did. Now this one here is a backlit painting. So these are all mixtures of different blues and browns and purples and yellows and so forth. And this is called neutral. These are neutral colors, mixing darks. Okay, now here's the painting board, and I'm going to show you some examples and demonstration of how to mix gray. This building here, an old barn, a lot of grays there, so I picked this as my subject here to paint. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you first of all, I'm going to show you how I mix grays out of different colors, and then I'm going to paint that gray on top of this building here, just to give you an idea of how to mix a gray and then how to apply, how it would be applied in a way. And it'll be a lot of mixtures, so the part of making a gray is being able to mix the colors properly. Now the example I'm going through here is there's lots of ways to make a gray, just putting colors together, but the most efficient way, going to the color wheel, is to work with complementary colors. For example, the blue mixed with the orange is a complementary. That would make a gray. The red mixed with green would also make a second gray. And then the yellow mixed with the violet would make another gray. So what that is, you're adding a primary color red to a secondary color green. Here, a primary color blue mixed to a secondary color orange, and a primary color yellow mixed with a secondary color violet. So that would give you a mixture that would give you a neutral color or a gray color. Now, neutral can be a warm brown or a cool brown or a gray. So I'm going to go through some of these mixtures here and show you some of my favorite grays that I use in my paintings. So referring to the color wheel is very important. Okay, down here I have a sketch of that barn photograph I have. I'm going to be painting on this sketch down here at the bottom. And I can mark out a little bit here. And let me show you, I'll bring it up close to the camera. You can see I've got a sketch down at the bottom. So that's the sketch I'm going to be painting on at the bottom of the mixture exercise. Now the first mixture I'm going to have, I've got grays written up here too. Now the first mixture I'm going to do the primary blue mixed with the secondary green, orange, green versus the orange. So over here, and all I'm going to have is my colors. Let me go through my color wheel here. I'll start out here with the green. I've got Hooker's green on my palette, burnt sienna, yellow lemon, permanent orange, Pyro red, quinacridone violet, cobalt blue, and ultramarine blue. And also over here I have a little bit of Payne's gray. Now Payne's gray is a tube paint that gives you a gray or a dark black, but it also will dull down the color. So I don't use Payne's gray only very minor areas, but I want to show that today as show you an example of Payne's gray versus the gray we mix with colors. Again, very important way to look at it. So the first color I'm going to do is mix the blue with the orange. So a little bit of cobalt blue. I'm going to mix here in the middle of the palette. So I'll mix the colors in the palette first. A little bit of cobalt blue. Wash out the brush because I want clean paint. So I rush out the brush, pick up some of that orange, and bring it in and gradually introduce it into the blue. And you can see there, and I'm going to paint it here on the paper. Let me put the colors that goes with. I mixed the cobalt blue with the orange. So that's your references right there. Cobalt blue and orange gave me that gray. And I can bring it up to the camera. You can see how it's got a warm color because of the orange mixed in with the blue, but it's a dull color, which would be a gray. And what I'll do there is also I can lighten that up with a little bit of water. You can always lighten up a color by adding water. And I'm going to use that mixture down here in the front of the building, because what I'm going to have is I'm going to have the light coming from the top left. The light's going to be up here, moving into from the top left down to the bottom right. Okay, that's the direction of light. So this would be the light side of the of the building over here. And what I like about mixing these colors is that you don't keep one constant color, because with the mixture, it's a varying gray, which to me is a much more interesting color than having a solid color. So having a mixture of blue and orange would give you a gray. And I watered it down so it would be a light value. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to rough it up to make look like a little bit of grass or a little rough edge. Also, this part of this building, which is like a little shed over here on the side, is in a little extension, so I'll go ahead and add. Now I'm going back to the palette and I'm picking up more colors out of that mix, which again gives me a variety. And I'm going to rough up the edge here a little bit, get a little bit of water, make a loose edge at the bottom. Okay, now that'll dry, it'll be a lot lighter. Watercolor dries 40% lighter, so that'll be a light, basically a light value. Okay, now the next color I'm going to do is the next primary would be red. And let me clean out. I want to make my mixtures here in the center. So let me take the sponge and I'll pick out the clean palette. And I'm going to mix the red, Pyro Red. Clean out the brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of Hooker's Green. And they're about the same value. The red and the green are about pretty close to the same value. And I'm going to mix it here in the center. And I'm going to put that up here on the chart. Okay, and let me indicate that also with another brush. I mixed the red, Pyro Red, in with the Hooker's Green, and I'll mark that over here. And you'll notice here this here has got let me bring up the camera. That's the red, that's the Pyro Red and the Hooker's Green mixture, and it gives you a gray. It leans toward the green, but depending on how much pigment you put in there, it can be varied. Let's leave that mixture, come down here. Now this will be in shadows. This side of the building over here is in shadow. This is light, this side over here will be in shadow. So this will be a little bit darker. So I'm going to make a little stronger mix. So I'm adding a little bit more pigment, a little bit more red, a little more green, and I'm going to go ahead and put that dark in there. And this will be a darker shadow, but you can see the color there. Let me turn the page a little bit so I want a vertical stroke here. That gives me a nice shadow, much darker, and then I want to just give a little soft edge here at the bottom. Now I'm going to take that same mixture and I'm going to mix a little bit more red in with that mixture. This is going to be the same mix. I'm going to add a little more red to it. And I'm going to paint right next to that. The green and the red, but this time I'm going to have a little bit of red in that. Okay? So using the same colors but a different ratio of red and green. The first one I put down had a little more green in it. The second one I did had a little more red in it. So you can vary the temperature of your gray, make it warmer or cooler depending on the mixture of the colors. Okay, I'm going to make another mix. So let's go, that's 2 primaries down. So that's one more primary to try, and that would be the yellow. Keep the palette clean. You don't want those mixed, you'll be contaminating your mix if you let the colors mix together too soon. And that's a nice bright yellow, but it's also, yellow is probably the not only the lightest color, but it's also the weakest color. So it's going to take very little color to change that. So this is a quinacridone violet, which is a strong color compared to the yellow lemon. So just take a little bit of that to mix in. Now you can see there, that mixture there, I'm going to have to put a lot more yellow in there because usually, as I said, the yellow is less intense. It's less intense than the violet, so I have to put more of the yellow mixture in with that to gray it down. But you can see here it's going to be a warm gray. It's going to be, there's the mixture, and a little bit of paint on my finger. When I touched the paper, it came off, so I picked that up. And if you have something like that happen in your painting, you just take your tissue and pick it up while it's still wet, and it goes away. So this is a mixture of yellow, mixed in with the violet. You know what I think I'll use that for? I think I'll use that for the top of the roof. Because right here now, the light's coming this way, so there'll be a little bit of light on top of the roof here. So I think I'll use that color, the color gray. And it'll have a mixture of yellow and a mixture of purple in there. That's what I'm doing. So this will be a colorful barn. I'm using all the colors in the primary, so we're not really trying to get accuracy on the colors here for the barn. We're just using colors here to show you how to mix the grays. You wouldn't necessarily use all these grays on one painting. I'm just trying to demonstrate here what these grays look like when you mix them up. And I'm judging the value between the front here. This here, it looks a little bit lighter, but I'm trying to make it a little bit darker. And there's ways to adjust that. There's ways of adjusting that. I can show you that in a few moments. If I took a little bit of that Payne's Gray, just a little bit of that Payne's Gray, went in there with a Payne's Gray on top of that mixture, you see how it grays it down? Because that yellow is a lot brighter. Yellow is a lot brighter. I'm comparing the value of the roof now with the front part of the building. I want this to be a little bit darker than the front part of the building. So I adjusted that by putting a little hint of the color mix, yellow and the purple, and I just put a just a drop of the Payne's Gray on top of it to dull it down. That's what the Payne's Gray does. It dulls down that color. I only did it for a reason, to change the value between these two areas. Okay, now I'm going to mix one more. Besides the primaries, there's other mixes on here that are very good, what I use a lot. Let me clean the palette out. I got one more mix which I use a lot, which is this demonstration here was just to show you how to make a mixture of the primaries, which is the proper way to make a gray. Complementary color mixtures. Here I'm going to use ultramarine blue, which is the blue right next to the cobalt. This is ultramarine blue. It's a nice darker blue than cobalt, but it's got a little bit of red in it. It's warmer than cobalt. And then I'm going to take the burnt sienna down here and bring that in. And that mixture there probably is the nice quality gray that you get. I'm going to bring that up. That little mixture, that last one I did was a gray between, it was ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And let's mark those down. Ultramarine blue mixture with the burnt sienna. One of my favorite colors. And those two mixes will give you a gray. Okay? And that gray there, I think I'm going to use a nice darker value there. So add a little more blue to it, a little more burnt sienna to it, get a little darker value. And I'm going to paint the section here on this back side. And then I'm going to add a little more blue to that. Just adding a little more blue to the same mix, adding a little more blue to make it a little bit darker, and make a little shade of blue on that, okay? Because this side back here now is in shadow. Okay, this is the shadow side of the barn right down here. Now I think what I'll do is I'll take those two colors. I think I'll take the ultramarine blue by itself, load the brush, damp out take out some of the moisture, put it on a sponge, and then I'm going to, at the top of this little roof here, I'm going to make it into a tin roof. So it looks like a little bit of aluminum. And now I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna, load the brush, take out some of the moisture on the sponge, and this will look like maybe a little rusty part of that roof. I'm just kind of playing around with the colors on the palette. Take a look at that. That was just some brush strokes I did on that tin roof. We're going to go back and do a little, again, that demonstration to show the different values that you can get with these grays. I'm going to take this Payne's gray now, right out of the tube, with a little bit of water in it. And you can see, how dark that is. See, that's black. Okay, that's Payne's gray right out of the tube. Now if I mix a little bit of water with that, I can get a light and a dark gray. Okay, now let me show you the same mixture I have here. If I take that ultramarine blue, add some pigment there, ultramarine blue, pick up more of that burnt sienna, and I put that down next side to that, and I get the same look. So this second one here was a mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, a much darker mix than up here. So I can make a dark black or a dark gray using a mix of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, just adding more pigment in there. Okay, So this one here, let's mark them. This was Payne's Gray, and down here was Ultramarine Blue, mixed with Burnt Sienna. What I did there was just identify the mixtures. This first mixture was just a Payne's Gray, and this was with water, Payne's Gray at the top. Then I mixed in the Ultramarine and the Burnt Sienna to give me the dark gray. You can see it's almost the same as a Payne's Gray. Okay. So by adding more pigment to a mix, you can get darker and darker. That's the whole point here. You can have a light gray or a dark gray. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and use that dark gray. I'm going to outline this building a little bit to show you how to use the darks, like I showed you in that one photograph of that indoor painting. And what I'll do here is I do this, I'm going to pick up some other colors out of the palette, because I want this, it's not a multiple color, but it's the fact you can use any color combination. Mix a little bit of more blue in there, and with the red, I'm not turning the brush, so I'll get a little bit of brush. This is say a background tree. And outline this building a little better with what I have here. And next to this building, next thing I'll add a little more green down here. So I'm picking up colors out of the palette that are already mixed up there, and I'm getting kind of a combination of the different values: the dark green, the dark blue, burnt sienna, pyro red. They all mix together to make a gray, what I call a neutral color or a gray color in different values. You make them darker and lighter by adding a mix of water with them. You can lighten them up a little bit. Down here, there's a little shed down here I'm going to identify right here. And behind that, I've got some bushes or part of that tree, and maybe a couple fence posts, just to give a little interest back there. Again, I can make as much detail as I want. Then come out here. Okay, and on this side, maybe some more trees. Again, just picking up colors out of the palette. Different mixtures. Again, you can see the greens and the browns and the blues all mix up, and it gives you what they call a neutral color or a gray color. But you get quite a variety of different browns and different color blues, different color reds, different color purples. So there's no limit to what colors you can come up with. Let me turn this around so I get the edge here. I just want to try to define this edge a little better. So those darks set off the rooftop a little bit. And then I can go ahead and do some final touches. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on this paint. It's not really a paint, it's just a practice. I can put a little, using Payne's Gray now, to stick a little window up there. Use the Payne's Gray. I can also put maybe a doorway here. Now with that Payne's Gray, I can add in other colors. There's a little bit of red mixed in with the Payne's Gray. So I wouldn't use Payne's Gray by itself. I'd mix it with a color, and then the Payne's Gray would tone it down. And just a few more marks here. Let's see, make this a doorway. Old barn door. Okay. And under here, there'll probably be some shadows under. Now these grays also make great shadows. This is another point I want to make, that the gray tones, a gray down green or a gray down blue makes it, or purples, make your shadows for landscapes or for even still life. You still need a shadow pattern when you do a painting. So these neutral grays and mixtures give you the shadow patterns for a painting. So what I did there, I just added some little touches here on the building. Now, one last thing I wanted to show, just a quick demonstration. I'm going to take some bright color. See, all these colors have been muted. They've all been muted with another color. Either the complementary color was added, or something that toned it out. So if I take the red, Pyro Red, the brightest color, one of the brightest colors I have on the palette, and take this little shed back here and paint that in there. You can see right away that red takes your eye right to it, because that's the brightest color. That's pure color out of the palette. Okay, in summary here, to mix the grays, we use the primary grays for mixing cobalt blue and orange, which gave us this gray here. Pyro Red and the Hooker's Green for this particular. It gives you a darker green-gray mix, but you can change the values of either red or green to make it whatever color you want. You can make a darker red mix with that. This is yellow lemon mixed with quinacridone violet. So it's a yellow and a violet mixed up to give you a warm gray. And then this is probably the best all-around gray you can use is ultramarine and burnt sienna, which give you a gray. And here I showed the Payne's Gray out of the tube, and I add a little bit of water to it to lessen the intensity. So there's a dark and a light gray mixture here using Payne's Gray. And then I showed you a mixture of the tube out of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and give you a dark mix, which is very comparable to the Payne's Gray. And then at the bottom here, I added a bright red color here to this little shed in the back. You can see the impact of all these gray colors or muted colors compared to a pure pigment color. It makes it pop right out of the painting. Okay, so that's one of the reasons for having grays mixed in with a painting, and also grays to give you a nice shadow effect under the eaves and so forth. So you need grays in your painting for shadows and for the shadow side of a building, or for a plein air, or for a still life object. Okay, that was good examples of how to mix grays, and grays are very important in a painting. And you can see there that there's multiple ways of mixing grays. I think the easiest ones to use is mixing the primary colors together. Most everybody has the primary colors to mix up and to make a gray or an off neutral, or make a neutral color, which is important for shadows and for the shadow side of a building or a still life. So mixing grays becomes very important. And then you can see the colors in the palette as they mix will also turn out to be a gray color. So you have multiple choices. You just decide whether you want a darker, lighter, you want a warmer or cooler than the object that you're painting against. And that's all you really have to decide. Is it darker than you want it? Is it lighter than you want? Is it warmer or is it cooler? That's basically all you have to decide. And just have fun and mix those grays. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to be informed of my next video. Give me a thumbs up. It helps my rating on YouTube. So I'll see you on the next video.